Size to Sell, where myself and Jason talk all about all the process and the soft, the touch points, everything to do with building a really strong and customer focused sales process and funnel and team. And today, Jason, we're going to be talking about all the sales collateral from a leader's perspective to support his team and his customers going forward. Hello, everyone. And Jason, welcome again. Always great to have these conversations, right? And today, this is really an important topic, right? Because we've talked a lot about the process, the touch points, the awareness, the soft, because we talked a lot about that and how to really improve the customer experience, right? But we haven't really tackled all the sales collateral, the assets that the team needs, the leader and the team needs to move forward to ensure everybody's going the same direction, working together to make it better, right? So your thoughts, what are your first thoughts now? Because for me, Jason, I always think of the foundational collateral, right? The base stuff that the sales leader needs to train the teams. And then from there, what is it about the customer? What is it about your service? What about your products? What about the collateral you need to communicate effectively with the rest of your business, so your colleagues in different departments? So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on all this?
Such a massive topic here. And I think everything needs to be congruent. There's my magic word again. Everything needs to be, the email signatures all need to be exactly the same, which is key and often doesn't happen. I know I worked in a rather large corporation and everyone had a different signature. I think just consistency is key for that, because you are messaging and you can be messaging by email a lot. So that needs to be consistent. So the branding, obviously, the branding colors, depending on the size of the organization, like the bigger ones, they'd have all their branding done. And obviously the deck, if you're creating a deck, make sure that's standardized across the organization. Same colors, the same fonts as usual, your logos up there, but having everything the same or similar. So when you are sending materials out like decks and PDFs, it's the same. It looks and feels the same. It's showing what your brand looks and feels like. So that's a really good indication. And make sure that everyone knows this. Like the smaller companies, the SMEs need to standardize things like this. It's just good practice to get yourself into. And I think that's one of the first things. Just make sure everyone knows what the brand is, what it means, what it stands for, what your company stands for. And I think that's the foundations of having that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would actually, exactly to your point, Jason, and I'm gonna, you said the word standardization, right? And I totally agree. And what I want people to understand, there's a difference between standardization and robotics, right? We don't want people to become robots and say the exact same words, because we want to have people's charisma come across, but get the key points across. So they're more like guidelines than actually, they have to read everything verbatim from a line, right? So I think that's really important to make clear, because I know some people confuse that. And it's really important to ensure people's natural personalities come across in everything. And yes, when it comes to the branding, emails, logos, everything, they should be consistent. Standardization is key, Jason, because you want to have one voice, one message, one mechanism going forward. And along with that, what I always like to do is, again, specifically with sales teams more than anything, because they're customer facing and other customer facing teams, to really get that collateral to understand what are the brand values, what are the missions, really spell that out for the team and make sure the team believe it. Even every year review it and update it, evolve it, iterate it, Jason, to ensure they're part of it, so they believe it, they move forward together, so they don't have different opinions. And then this all breeds into when they meet people, the same stuff comes out of their mouth. In general, it's not about, as I said, verbatim, it's about consistency in the message, the brand values, what you represent, what you're there to do to support the customer in their journey for success.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. There is, what's the vision of the company? Where do they need to be seen to be going? And the values, that the core values that is across the company. And that obviously goes with the mission statement and where and what the company actually does and how people actually interpret that. Now, obviously, that's got to be across the line. And when the customer knows, and when you actually speak to the customer, the brand and everything is the same. So across all of the customers, they see you as that type of person. You see you as that type of software, hardware, or service that you offer, and it's consistent across everywhere. So you get known for that brand, that message, that whatever that you're trying to create across the collateral. And that also goes with all of the stuff that you push out through newsletters, stuff that you push out through the words I was trying to get is, if you're writing articles for magazines and so on and so forth, the messaging needs to be the same, because that's all collateral as well. And that's all stuff that we can repurpose and send out to clients as well. So that has to be consistent as well.
And that's actually a great call out, Jason, because now when you know now when people are looking or considering doing business with you and your business, they're not going to just research your business, Jason. They're going to research you. They're going to research you on all the different channels and platforms available. So if we keep it to business, they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile. They're going to see what you put up on LinkedIn. They're going to compare that in their minds to what and how you spoke to them when they met you, right? So everything, if you're doing videos, like I know we like to do some videos and content on LinkedIn, that message, the overall feel, shape, and message from that content has to be similar and consistent with how you talk to the customer. And again, Jason, it's not just about having sales meeting. When you're networking, how you represent the business as well as yourself. And this is why having really strong collateral that is active, right? I'm not talking about passive, active, really embedded into the culture of the team is super important.
Yeah. While you was thinking that, back in the day, many years ago, you'd have your business card, you might have your leaflets and stuff like that, your brochures and whatever. You don't need that now. Like, we've all moved on. That's way in the past. I don't even carry a business card anymore. I don't feel I need it. I had this discussion with a networking group the other day, and I said, look, I don't use a business card anymore. I don't need one. I've got a digital business card. I can get people to scan it and pulls all the data in to my CRM. I don't need that anymore. But they're going, oh no, but you need it for your branding. It's nice to have something tangible. Yeah, for certain things, maybe. But if you are to have a business card, you make sure that it's obviously company logos and your brand and your fonts and all of that. And then any other collateral that you can send out to clients when you meet them face to face. But then your message that comes across, because this is all about how you and your company actually represents you in the marketplace. Like us as solo entrepreneurs, we have to represent our own brand, which is mine's Jason Cooper and yours Dr. Future State Academy, or however we change, but we have to be and show up exactly the same way every time that we're seeing. And that's all to do with creating that brand, that value, and creating collateral based on how we represent ourselves.
Absolutely, Jason. And to your point there about solopreneurs, it's even more important for us. And not just what we do in business, but how we represent ourselves in personal life. Because we sort of move in the same circles, Jason, with other business people, right? In our personal life, we do running together, for example. But how we represent ourselves there has to be similar and consistent how we represent ourselves everywhere else. And that sometimes when I started doing this myself many years ago, and like I think I was saying in one of our previous sessions, I actually spent a lot of time this year redoing, evolving my brand, my mission, my values to see, first of all, am I representing them? And then how can I develop them going forward? So it's not a one size exercise. It's not, you don't just leave it, it's static. You have to keep evolving it all the time. But it's so important, Jason, that you become that person. You have to believe it's not just about having them wishy-washy and leaving them there. They have to, because when I started doing this first, there's what I think I am, what I want to be, and who I am, right? And there's three elements that there's a gap between them. The whole idea is to bring them closer and closer over time. So you live it and you become purposeful in how you live and how you represent yourself. So I do believe for all the solopreneurs out there, it's even more important to do this, because if people catch you out, Jason, if you don't act, even if you're not consistent, someone comes across a Facebook page or your Facebook profile, and then they see a derogatory joke or something you put up, and that then creates an inconsistency in their mind about how they think of you or how you came across, that creates untrust, mistrust, Jason. So you have to be super careful in what you do.
Yeah, I think we've all heard about the Gary Lineker stuff that's been going on recently, and all the trouble that he got into. But then he's so strong within his own brand that all of his other sporting presenters got behind him because he
Yeah.
represents something so trivial, what actually happened, but everyone backed him. So that's how he's representing himself. But other people perceive him in a certain way. And the message that I want to get across is it's all about how our customers perceive us and how we represent that. So when we do the collateral, it's them in mind, but we all focus on the market that we want to attain, the perception that we want to receive. So when we do our brand values, when we do everything else, it's all with them in mind, but it's all about us as well. So there's another string to the bow there, and it's how we represent that, but how we're also perceived in the marketplace.
Yeah, and just to add to that point, Jason, right? And this bringing it back from the leader's lens and view, right? This is where it's very important when you onboard and take on new sales, like account managers or sales representatives, right? It's really important that the leader spends time with them in the beginning, inducting them, making them understand what we stand for, what the team stands for, how we work together as a team, not individual. As you know, Jason, a lot of sales reps like to be independent and do their own thing. I believe the role of the sales leaders to bring that together, create a glue within the team. But then when they start going out to sell, they should shadow that sales rep for the beginning to help them become better at what they do, help them embed those brand values, help them with their core messages, how they act, their bring out their own natural charisma for when they're meeting people. And I think that's really powerful to be really on board with your teams, really active and help them. And that creates that unison within the team, Jason. That starts at the very beginning.
Yeah, and it's a good point that you've just raised there. Is it's down to the leaders within every sales organization is to make sure, and it goes on to even when they're coaching and mentoring them, is to have a look at their decks and make sure that their decks is consistent with number one, what the messaging that they're going out towards the client is correct, but also the brand and the consistency in that, but also making sure it's persuasive and influential, but not too much clutter on there. So it comes across like it's a good piece of collateral to send out to the clients afterwards, beforehand, or whenever that you send the information out to the clients. Plus, also knowing the other elements that are there within our intranet, all the videos that we might send out, the links from YouTube, that the videos that we might have created, other PDFs that we have that we can send across to the clients. That all of that stuff needs to be completely evolved as we go on, but also double checked as a leader just to make sure that we are sending the right stuff out and it is sending the right message out to the end users.
Yeah. Great point, Jason. And just another thing that brings to my mind then. So we've been talking about the collateral and the values going outwards to the potential customers and existing customers. But what about internally, Jason? Because quite often sales teams can be quite siloed with the rest of the business. What do you think is useful when it comes to creating those cross-functional relationships in different departments? What do you think? What kind of collateral do you think is important there?
That's interesting, actually, because obviously the marketing team would hope that will be creating a lot of these messages for us, the sales team. And we've spoken about this before, has to be unison. Like we have to be in line with the everything that every time that we speak to a customer, marketing should somehow get involved and go, well, what are they saying? What are they saying about us as a brand? Let's adapt that. Let's evolve that. Let's make it better. So the marketing team needs to help the sales team out within that. Obviously, the different areas of accounts and that needs to be congruent when they send out information, invoices, all of that. That needs to be consistent as well with the logos, branding, and any other messaging that might be on there. So
Yeah.
I think that's another important part of it. Or if you have a piece of software that pushes it out, but then that has to have the branding elements. If you're a solo entrepreneur, that needs to be consistent with everything else that we send out, and maybe other things that might add a value than what we stand for as a company. That needs to be there, just completely just representing that out.
Yeah.
And that's also a good marketing thing as well.
But it does. And again, Jason, I think it's really important, as you said, it's the holistic message from the whole team.
Yeah.
So it very much starts with the sales team creating the relationships with the customer. And then, as you said, internally, the marketing team to make sure that is consistent, what the marketing messages are going out with and what the sales message is when they see it. So again, it creates that congruency, as you say, with the customer, but then also the service delivery team.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, because I've worked with teams that the sales team give out about the service delivery team will give out about the sales team saying they're after promising something we can't deliver, even though we told them. And because it's just a lot of salespeople will just say yes to get the deal, right? I'm not saying everyone does that, but it's an inconsistency, and it's not even just to get the deal. They don't always know what the limits are of the service delivery team. It sounds okay for them to say, but when it goes into service delivery, they can't. And then that again can create an inconsistency in the message and trust that you're trying to create with your potential customers or your existing customers.
Yeah. And on that point about service, so I've worked in call centers as well, is making sure that the message that they say initially is consistent every time, because they always have to say, this is being recorded for blah, 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 coaching and whatever purposes. And that message needs to be consistent every time that they say. And maybe some of the words that they might use, I know it might sound a bit robotic. If they can use a little bit of personality behind it, even better. But that there has to be pretty standard. So that service, customer service within the call center, but actually also when people are actually on the road as well. I remember working with a big office solutions company a few years back, but even the materials going out on the cars and the vans, that has to be congruent, consistent. But when they actually speak to the clients as well, delivering the product, delivering the service, whatever it might be, the conversation has to be consistent there as well.
Yeah. So I know we're wrapping up on time here, Jason. As always, these conversations just go so quickly, right? But I think a few of the big words that we're talking about here, one is consistency, right? From between, and again, consistency, not with just what you say, is how that aligns with all the other teams that will be customer facing at some stage, and also that word congruency, right? So everything is aligned, complementing each other, not contradicting. So, Jason, they were probably my final words.
I think you took out all of my words. I was going to use
They were your words. I know I took your words. So I got in there before you this time.
Alignment. That's what I was thinking of, which is pretty much the same as consistency. And I think we're both consistent what we're the message here, and it is exactly that. Just be aligned with what the values are of the company, the vision statement and the mission statements, and everything else needs to be the same.
Yeah,
So
and for people to embed and embody the values stated in those statements as well.
absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, look, Jason, as always, thanks very much. I'm delighted I could rob your stuff today, your message before you got in there. And thanks everyone for listening. If anyone has any questions, please let us know. We'd be delighted to help. And in the meantime, have a great day.
Take care.